This video is a study skills guide to the spaced repetition system. What you'll need for this system is a set of flashcards with a question on one side and an answer on the other, or a keyword on one side and a definition on the other, or any memory prompt on one side of the card and something you have to remember on the other side of the card. This should be based on the subject content for whatever you are studying. You'll also need 4 locations. These could be boxes or just places around your room, in which you have one labelled daily, one weekly, one monthly, and one every second month. So let's look at how we use this system. The first thing we need to make sure of is that we don't overload ourselves. You may find that there's a huge amount of subject content. That means you may have well over 100 flashcards full of questions and information. If you try to review these every single day, it's going to be hugely overwhelming. It's going to take you a massive amount of time, and by the next day, if you look at them again, you're not really going to be able to memorize what's on the other side of them because there's too many to cope with. So what we're going to do first is break it down into a manageable chunk. We'll take 10 of those cards and place them into our daily box. This box we look at every single day. So once we have the daily box and it's day 1, we take one of the cards out, and if we cannot remember what's on the other side of the card, we simply return it to the daily box to look at again tomorrow. If, however, we do remember what's on the other side of the card, we're able to move it into the weekly box. So every day we'll be going through our daily box, and we're going to try and keep a minimum of 10 cards in there. So every time we've gone through one of those cards, we're going to add another one to our daily box to make sure there's still at least 10 flashcards in there. Then once we've done that, after 7 days of going through our daily box and moving several of the cards onto the weekly, at the end of the week we're going to be looking at the weekly box. We'll take a card out. If we can't remember what's on the other side, we're going to have to put it back into the daily box again, so we'll be looking at it again tomorrow. Meanwhile, if we do remember what's on the other side of the card, we're able to move it into our monthly box. Once it's in the monthly box, we won't be looking at that until the 28th day. Then, when the 28th day arrives, we're going to take a look through our monthly box. All the cards that we've collected in there, we're going to take them out, have a look. If we can't remember what's on the other side, it's going to go back into the daily box, and we'll look at it again tomorrow. Meanwhile, if we can remember what's on the other side of the card, we'll be moving it into the every second month box. Finally, in the every second month box, if you look through it and there's a card which you can't remember what's on the other side, you're going to have to put it all the way back into the daily box. Meanwhile, if you can remember, just leave it in the every second month box. So the reason this system works is because it focuses revision on the content you can't remember. You quickly go through the cards that you can remember, and you'll only really, in a period of 2 months, ask yourself to memorize the other side of the card or remember what's on the other side 4 times. You'll do it once for the daily, once for the weekly, once for the monthly, and once on that second month point. Meanwhile, those cards that you can't remember, you'll be looking at over and over again in order to encourage your memory to keep that information in. The next thing is it spends a little time reviewing information you can remember. So the fact is, you can learn something, memorize it, and if you don't repeat it, if you don't go over it and you don't rehearse it, you can find that that information is gone. Many people who have done courses at university will be able to tell you after about 10 years from leaving university, most of the information they will have forgotten. Not because they didn't learn it in the first place, but because they haven't reviewed it. So it uses repetition to ensure your mind recognizes the importance of the information. And finally, it uses recall rather than rereading. A lot of people think a good way to revise is just to take a textbook or a revision guide and just to read a page on it. Unfortunately, all this does is teach the skill of reading. It doesn't teach the skill of recall. In order to impress on your mind what information needs to be retained and needs to be able to be recalled, you must recall the information, not just reread it. You must quiz yourself on the information.